Welcome to another episode of Gracias Come Again. Today I am sitting down with the very talented and special Daphne Rubin-Vega, Broadway star, actor, singer, dancer, one-woman show, icon, legend. Oh my God, I'm so excited to have you here today.
Hi, honey.
How are you feeling today?
I'm good.
You're feeling good. You look amazing.
Thank you. So
I
do
love
you.
I love the pin. I knew you were gonna come with some type of swag. I was like, she's got that, she's got that vibe.
It's the year of the snake, mama.
Is it? Oh,
Ya tú sabes.
oh, I thought that was just Cavalli. I was like,
No, it's not actually.
I said
It's
she's flexing
Batar.
on me. Oh, Batar.
But
yes, we're gonna get into that Batar campaign because I'm like, I was like, am I in a rabbit hole right now watching these videos?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, isn't it?
It is. Now,
Yeah.
I always like to start from the beginning, and I like to treat interviews like if the person listening, this is the first time they're getting to know you. Panameña,
See?
born and raised born in Panama, raised in New York.
Yes. Born in Panama, raised, by wolves all over the world.
All over the
Not
world?
over the world. No. I should say in the United States. Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And New York.
And New York. You came here when you were 2 years old?
Three.
Una bebecita.
Sí. Sola.
¿Cómo que sola?
¿Cómo que no?
¿Cómo que sola?
Cuando somos inmigrantes, se tiran en el avión y ya. By sola, I mean my mother and father were going through stuff,
Okay.
and my mom put me on a plane because my aunt and uncle, her sister and brother-in-law, were in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
He worked in the embassy. So she thought it was a good idea to leave me, put me in their charge like family does for 3 months. And that became 3 years. Pero ni modo, aquí estoy.
Claro que sí. And you've done some amazing, amazing things in these past 40 years. Right?
Thank you. 40, wow.
And I know you
would
say
make me
raised by wolves and raised all over America. I know you lost your mom at a very young age.
Yeah.
Did you stay with your tia?
No, by that time, and by raised by wolves, I'm just being facetious.
I know you are.
New York City is a big fat wolf. It's a good one. But no, by the time my mom passed, she had remarried. So my stepfather raised us, my brothers and I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jewish American, born in the Bronx.
I heard you talk about him in an interview.
Yes,
And I'm
Leonard.
like, Leonard has
Que
some
en paz
gems.
descanse.
He has some gems. I heard you talk about, things that he told you. And I'm like, I wish my dad would have told me all those things.
Yeah, my dad was, he was, when you're white, you're called eccentric, but he was crazy. No, he was a wonderful, sort of an intellectual to a fault.
Okay.
Like he, and he was just, a beautiful, problematic, complicated,
Isn't that all of us?
wounded. Yes, it is. And, some of us are thicker, some of us are slicker, quicker, all the things.
Now, I was listening to your music last night. I was like, I know these songs. I know all this music. It's like, how did this escape me? Because I've been seeing you on TV and I've never made the correlation.
You know what's interesting? When you say you've heard my songs, like there's so many different categories of that.
Mm-hmm.
Por ejemplo, Pajama Party, and then
Pajama
there's
Party,
Rent, and
freestyle.
then there's Rocky Horror, and
Okay.
then there's
No,
like,
not Broadway. I'm talking Pajama.
Oh, Pajama Party.
I was like,
yes. Wow.
I was like, I know this song. I was like I knew it word for word. I was like, I would have never put two and two together. But then I started
Yeah.
watching all of your content like in the past week, and I was just like,
Fun fact.
this is interesting.
Yes.
You've lived many lives.
I have. I sure have. I appreciate that you you point that out because it's the truth, and it's just what can happen if you don't die. I mean that in the best of ways. Some of us don't make it, and as heartbreaking as it is, those of us who do, it's good to represent whatever that means to us.
And I feel connected with you in a way because I heard you talk about how you've outlived your mom now.
Oh, yeah.
Same way I've outlived my dad. And when my dad passed, I thought he was an old man. And he was like...
How is that for you?
He was like 40. I'm like...
Yes.
Now I'm thinking back and I'm like, my dad was a young man. Like, he didn't get to live his life.
That's right.
And I connected with you when you said that because you were like, I've outlived my mom now.
Let me ask you, how did you feel when you hit 40? Did you have like a I was gonna say jism, but I
know what you're
don't
saying.
mean
Like, was
that.
it like a moment? No, I think what happened was just like I was
That's
just
the
like
word, schism.
I always thought Dad was old. Dad was not old. Dad was a young man. He just lived a rough life.
Yeah.
You know, New York can do that to you.
Yeah. And who knows what was going on when, our folks were working and, the stuff that they were exposed to, I mean, legit in the environment. Like, for example, my mother being a nurse at New York Hospital, she was OBGYN, like she was head nurse. I always love to say that because
that's a big deal.
it is a big deal. And I remember not understanding like the adversity she had to go through, pero era racismo, you know what I mean? All the stuff that we could be, toxic elements in the environment, legit toxic stuff, like when you work at a hospital, so.
Yes, it's like, you don't know. With my father, it was deeper. It was substance abuse.
Yeah.
Alcohol. It was just the 90s. It was just, it was that era.
Yep.
He was young and reckless, and I was like, I feel her on that. It's like we think our parents were old, and they weren't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a kid now. I still feel super young at 40.
Yeah. I'm not 40. I was 40. And now it's like, it's not borrowed time, but it's, I get spoiled and I don't think about it like everybody else, but it truly is good to talk about it with somebody. And maybe if we need to say it hard enough, somebody out there needs to hear it, because we do survive that shit. We do. And I didn't think I could.
El tiempo.
Sí. Y la distancia.
That too,
Y el amor.
Time. I've been through trauma that I thought I wouldn't make it out of. And I'm like, now I'm looking back and I'm like, I made it. But that day when that's happening, you feel like this is your darkest moment. You feel like you'll never be yourself again. You will be.
Yeah, like even sometimes to the point of like, there's so many messages out there that are like, why don't you just do game over? Like the world is so easy to just to click off. And let me ask you, haven't those experiences actually like recycled into some experience that you can give to someone else?
Oh no, 100%. My deepest and darkest experience was suffering a stroke. I was in bed. I couldn't walk.
Do your listeners know about this?
Yeah. I don't talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to be part of my identity.
Of course.
Because of,
because
like,
it's not.
Because it's not, and kind of like the pity and like stuff that people want to project on you. And I couldn't walk. I had to learn how to walk all over again. And now I life coach. I became a life coach just because of that. And when I have my clients and they're talking to me, about things are hard, I'm like, learning how to walk again is hard. You got this. You want to switch jobs? That's easy, baby. We got this. So yeah, my biggest form of trauma, I made sure I turned it into, a way that I can help people. And I set myself as an example. And I'm like, listen, I lost complete control of my left side. If I was able to work back to walking, to traveling, to working, you can handle whatever God has put in front of you. I'm a God-fearing woman. I believe God kept me here for a reason. And it's to let people know that no matter how deep in the dirt you feel like you are, you can make it out. Mm-hmm. It's all up here. I was like, I'm going to walk again. I'm going to run again. I'm going to work again. I'm going to travel again. Like, it was just granted, I had a lot to live for. Because, with older
Do you
folks.
have family?
Yeah. I was married.
Yeah, it's
I had
like
my
not
job.
today.
Yeah, no.
Not today.
I said, we're going to come back.
Sorry,
we're going to come
stroke.
back. And exactly. It's just like, you snuck up on me, but I'm not going to stay down. I see it as like a boxing match. You have 12 rounds, right? Who stays down on the first round? You don't, right?
I probably would.
No.
But not in life.
I was-
I don't want to get my ass kicked. Not the face, not the face.
We need that. That's the moneymaker, right?
Oh my God. But yes. Oh my God. Absolutely.
We've been through some things, Daphne.
Yes, girl.
Both of us.
Bueno, te digo ahora, you're like,
Dime,
I
háblame.
had to learn how to walk again. I am doing Shakespeare in the Park this summer, y'all.
I saw that. I'm going to come.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. But I have a torn meniscus.
Oh, you
so,
do?
let me just tell the world that, like, if I have to be like a hobbling Mariah, she's gonna hobble on that stage, and she's gonna incorporate it into her character.
Of course.
However, I'm not really thinking about doing that. But I thought,
It's going to get back. You're going to get back. You're going to be walking the same way you used to walk before.
well, whatever it is, you're gonna do it. Whatever it is. If you need another silicone, whatever you need, if you need cement, epoxy, anything, you get that shot. And then after the run, I might just have to get a knee replacement.
You know, the body kind of like starts to trick us and it starts to go.
I've had one before, so.
You had one before?
Yeah.
Oh, you're sounding like Lisa right now. She had both her knees
She
done.
did.
Yeah.
We need to talk, me and Lisa. By the way, were you at that performance the
I
other
was.
day?
Yeah, I was. How
Were you
amazing.
singing All Cried Out? I'm still singing All Cried Out.
She's such a legend. She's such an icon.
I was sitting right behind her.
Oh, you were?
Ay, la adoro.
I was on the other side, and my husband's like, Lisa's there. Lisa's there. And I'm like, really? He said, yeah, she has the little hat on. And I was far, like straight across, but she's absolutely amazing. We could talk about her forever, but
Yeah.
I just felt like, Liza was amazing.
Yeah.
David was amazing. Judy Torres, K7. Like, it just all came together so perfectly. And it just identifies with us so purely, like the music, the time, the clubs.
It's amazing. Like, if you live long enough. So this is the amazing thing of living many lives. I have been in a theater company with Judy Reyes, Ana Ortiz, Liza, Colon, David Zayas, a whole bunch of that posse.
You guys are you guys have like your own breakfast club situation going on. I love it.
Well, kind of, yeah.
Is this what, Labyrinth Theater?
Labyrinth Theater Company.
You're one of the founders, right?
Well, I was there in like 92.
Okay.
I like to call myself a founding member, but
Originator?
I was one of the early ones, but I legit, I was asked to join, so I guess
Okay.
that means I wasn't.
I wondered. I'm like, how is it that they all work together and they're all
because
move as a unit?
back in the day when we were studying and loving to do this craft that we do.
So you all know each other since you're young kids?
Well, yeah. I mean,
I love that.
I remember at one juncture we were like, yeah, no, but we weren't that young. And it's like, now that we look back, I was like, yeah, we were.
You're like, we were kids, right?
We were pretty goddamn young, 30 years. So, yeah, we were young. And we were auditioning for, Death and the Maiden, projects that were going to be on and off Broadway that were considered Latino content. They were Latino content written and or had Latino actors, and auditioning was very, very hopeful, and regular the actors, the norm would get it. So it was like, you can study this, but you can't be in it. So that's how the Latino Actors Base started. It was at INTAR. That was a Latino-based theater company. We were intrepid. People wrote, Stephen Girgis. Anybody that had a little melanin or melanin adjacent or
Un
just...
colorcito.
Sí, pero también, there was, white kids, everybody,
Yeah,
right?
no, for sure.
I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman was a huge part of that posse for a while.
If you love the culture and you're here for it,
Yeah.
we welcome it.
Yeah, so to see going from Pajama Party to seeing lab members pay homage to freestyle Latin music was really beautiful.
Is now Mimi Marquez.
Yes.
Do you get tired of talking about, rent and everything? Because I'm like, oh my God, I wonder if she's talked about this so much. And she's like, I hope she doesn't bring it up. Or is it still so important and dope to you that you'll have a conversation with anyone who brings it up?
No, I have been gotten sick of it, but it's so long ago that not anymore. It's really weird or not weird, but it's always kind of curious to see how people have absorbed it this much later. I just wanted to say one more thing about Pajama Party.
Oh, of course.
And I don't know, it's on my heart.
Whatever you want, give it to me.
It was a strange experience watching the play.
Yeah.
And knowing that George wrote it, and the whole posse, Bronx. It's a Bronx born. It wasn't even part of, we weren't quite hip, ni de aquí ni de allá, that kind of niche
It's like a fusion
thing. Pero hecho de la nada, made from, the two turntables and the microphone in the basement with the blue lights, minimal. And Pajama Party was not that, though. Pajama Party a la franca
Dime.
was something made sort of for us, but not by us.
Okay.
It was made, lamentablemente, yo no sé were the only 3 lyrics in Spanish. And I...
Was the blonde a white woman?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to be straight on that. 'Cause I like that.
Was the, as were the subsequent brunettes.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
So we were, and so when I was listening to the show and watching the fabulous, montaje,
Yeah.
it was like the Bronx, and it was like, okay, I grew up in Greenwich Village, okay?
Oh, you're a village girl?
There was Long Island, there was Brooklyn, there was Queens, there was New Jersey, pero no había ningún Bronx. Let's just keep that really clear. And so I'm honored to be part of, the culture. I'm honored. But it feels like there's a little imposter syndrome. I
was gonna say the word. I'm like, do you feel like yeah?
No,
was
but
it
it was
created by a label, the group itself. Is that why you feel this way?
Yeah, it was. It
was
was, and now 30 years later, it was like I was legit the ubiquitous urban element,
I feel you.
and I just need to say that because
You're
I
clear
needed
about
to
it.
say it. Yeah, and so that aspect really gave me incredible education. To watch the other sisters and brothers doing that thing was better than any university I could have imagined. So that allowed me to go on to Rent. And I'll tell you, I told Betty that Betty was a huge inspiration in building the character of Mimi.
Mimi felt so rebellious, or
Yeah.
or you. It was just like the whole thing just felt like
that
when
wasn't Betty, but yeah, just the prancing. There was something prancy about. I don't know. That sounds like a toy way of describing it, but
And
just the vivacity, the life force coming out of her.
you can feel it. Just felt so raw and gritty and just kind of rebellious.
Yeah, she
I
was.
I feel like they came from you, and
Yes.
I've seen Rent on Broadway, but it's just I don't know. When I was watching you back, it just felt different. It just felt like you had this fire in you. What were you going through? It just felt so strong.
Well, before Jonathan Larson died, I was going through a lot of I was just like a puppy, I'm on this stage doing the damn thing and tell me where to go, what to do. And I'm with people that I trust in the theater. Michael Greif was, I loved working with him, and the entire cast. We were really, really blessed. We were truly, truly but after Jonathan died, because I think I was angry, I knew that the piece was good and that I loved it, and I came to represent mi gente. People, somebody that looks like me is up here doing that.
And that doesn't happen a lot.
And it doesn't happen a lot. And it was interesting because I got, a very loud and enthusiastic gay love crowd. As far as Latina women, I think that they were quieter, or maybe I know that some of them were like, that's not me, you know. But sin embargo, you know, ahí me quedé. But the rebellious part was knowing people that lived like Mimi. Growing up in the village, very sex worker junkie with AIDS adjacent, you know.
It was a reality.
It was a reality. And it was like, I'm going to make this sort of demonized, filthy puta into a really beautiful human being. Te digo que hasta ahora en Panama.
¿Qué pasa en Panama?
No, it's just like there's something very difficult about that subject matter. I think that, you know, the young people are definitely starting to go like, it's time.
As far as what goes?
Just the conservatism of AIDS, homosexuality,
I feel like a lot
sex work.
Oh, well, yeah.
Drugs.
I think it's very, you know, it exists. Let's say in Dominican Republic, you know, we have, you know, sex workers. You know, sometimes it's like all the time. It's like, oh, guys trip the women, the sex workers. I'm like, okay, do your thing, do your thing. But yeah, the people that are in the island, let's say the politicians, let's say our leaders, they don't want that to be part of our identity.
Yeah, okay. That's fair.
They want to hide it.
I mean, I think that, like,
but it's very
do the
real.
Netherlands have sex work and German as their identity?
Oh, not as their identity, but they are there.
Well, of course, but they're taken care of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
And if I'm speaking out of pocket, you know, let me know. But I think that we don't have to incorporate. But that's the thing. In other words, I went to Panama, and it was like, oh, it's your identity. And it's like, no, it's not.
No,
it's a role that I play. So it's interesting
That's
that
insane.
in Panama, I think that a lot of the...
Los naripara?
Yeah, or just, you know, denial. You know, I think it's changing. I know
Tapar
that it's changing.
el sol con un dedo, como decía mi abuela.
Sí, porque yo soy she, you know. I don't even have to go to Panama. I can stay right here and talk to, you know, girlfriends. They're like, but why, honey? But, you know.
But it's just like, at this point, your career is so, you know, like the length of your career and the amount of roles that you've played. Like when I was looking at your IMDb, I'm like, what is this? The amount of work that you have done. Congratulations. Like, have you always existed in the actor space? That's it. Have you ever had one job that wasn't like acting? Like, did you one day be like, oh my God, I'm going to have to work here at this store?
Oh, God. Thank God, not since I started acting.
Really?
No.
God bless.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. But that's also, to be frank, because I'm a married woman and I have a husband that has a job.
Yes, husband.
Yeah. I have a husband that has a job. And in the very, very few and far between times that, you know, that wasn't the case, I was, you know, we were good.
Thomas held it down?
Yeah, he did.
He was like, I got you, baby.
Me, lay on me.
Hey. He said, no te apures, mi amor. No hay que trabajar. Now, you were a mom. Luca?
Yes.
How old is he?
20. Sorry, buddy. I just put you on blast.
It's okay. 20 is young. Listen, now we know 20 is young, right?
You know, I have a hard time calling him, you know, if I say the word B-O-Y, that's a problem. That's a
Eso es un hombre ya. Eso es un hombre.
Yeah. But I'm like, you know what? You're my hasta 21.
That's it, 21 nada más.
Well, you know, when he turns 21, then maybe I'll give myself a, you know.
That's never gonna...
A credit card swipe every time I say boy.
That's
He's
gonna be
my baby
That's
boy.
gonna be your baby
Ever.
Ever. My sister, she calls
that
her son is 27. She'll be like, because, you know, we do it for the kids. I'm like, those are grown-ups.
Yeah, my kids.
But she'll never stop saying the kids.
Yeah, they're the kids. Yeah.
You're a dog mom too, right?
Yes.
I'm a dog mom. I was like, I have a crazy mini golden doodle.
Oh,
Eso es un
how
loco.
big? ¿De qué tamaño?
Está chiquito, pero es loco.
Can you take him on the plane?
Absolutely not. I don't think he'll behave. He's a puppy
Okay,
still.
okay.
Daphne, he's only 2.
2 years old.
Yeah, and he goes for a car ride and olvídate. If a car, listen, I wanted to take him to Miami. You know, we had to drive to Miami because we didn't trust him on a plane.
Okay, that's fair.
That should tell you how crazy he is.
Okay, there's a thing, and I'm not about it because it's like if you have $8,000, but Bark Air, Bark Air, people. Okay, that's free advertising.
Bark Air, cut the check.
Yeah, you can take your damn dog
Uh-huh.
and sign up for we want to go to DR on the 12th. Like, who wants to go to DR on the 12th?
Oh.
They got to bring their dog.
And then we'll all fly to DR with our dogs.
That's the premise, pero I don't think they're going to DR yet.
I'm gonna look into this. They're probably just going to LA, Dubai. Para la gente que tiene $8,000 para viajar con los perros, right?
No, ellos no necesitan Bark Air, no joda.
Claro que no.
No.
Yo me lo llevé en un carro. Hace, ¿tú quieres ir para Miami? No te apures. You're going to take this ride with me.
Big ass dog.
I
He's
saw
4
you.
today.
He is? Oh my God. What's your dog's name?
Oystin. Oistin. He's named after Oystins on the Bay in Barbados. It's a joint. It's this fabulous place.
What is it, a bar, a restaurant?
It's a bar,
Okay.
restaurant, exactly.
You fell in love with that place.
Well, my son fell in love. We all fell in love with that place. It's the best fish fry. It's just a hoot and holler in time in Barbados,
I was gonna ask you, I said, where did this name come from?
So my son just called him Oystin. And everyone goes, I don't like that name. And
It's
we say
different.
nothing.
I've never heard it, but, happy birthday to Oyston.
Thank you. We
4 years
call
old.
him Oyster because he's gray.
I thought that's what you were going to say, oyster.
Yeah, you can absolutely call him Oyster.
Now, movies. Let's talk. I Like It Like That.
Mm.
I love that movie. Lauren Velez. She is, I need to talk to her.
Do people tell you that you resemble Lauren and Lorraine?
I get Tessa Thompson. That's what I get.
Oh, Tessa too.
That's like
Absolutely.
I get that one. And Rita Ora. She's like a UK
Rita
singer.
Ora, yes.
There you go. I get her. But yeah, no, I like it like
You're
that.
all from the same sort of. I bet you're all related.
Kind of like the little vibe.
There's a tapestry.
We're all entwined. You know what's crazy? Now that you're speaking like this, it's like I loved Dolores Roach. That was one of my favorite shows. And I'm like, when I was looking, I said she was the voice.
Yes. the Horror of Dolores Roach podcast, or rather, the show on Amazon was based on the podcast on Gimlet, Spotify,
Okay.
and that was based on a solo show called Empanada Loca, which was a solo theater show.
Espérate.
Yeah.
So Empanada Loca led to Dolores Roach?
Yes.
Never. You're lying to me,
I'm
Daphne.
not
No.
lying. I'm telling
you
you.
kidding
Te
me?
lo juro.
Mentira. I was obsessed with that show.
Did you see Empanada Loca?
I've watched parts of it. I didn't see the whole thing. That was your one-woman show.
Yes, at the Labyrinth Theater.
Hmm. Oh my God, this is all making sense now.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So where that brings us to is writing another piece that's like that.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I enjoyed it so much. It was just so different and I identified with it so much. And when they were like, we're not getting another season, I'm like, no, come on, I need this in my life because I don't really connect to a lot of shows.
Oh, you wanted another season?
Oh yes, I did. It was just like, I love Justina.
I appreciate
I
it.
love, the concept. Cuando salieron con lo de la empanada, I'm like, oh my God. I put everybody on. My mother-in-law, my sister-in-law. I'm like, señor, ustedes tienen que ver the show. And they were like, the empanadas. I'm like, listen, if you're listening right now and you're looking for something to watch, especially New York-centric, Latino-centric, there's Dominicans, there's Puerto Ricans, there's empanadas, and it's shot in New York because for me, that is super important. As a born and raised New Yorker.
Yeah, it's based in New York, but I ain't gonna lie, it's shot in Toronto.
It looked good, really?
Thank you.
Oh my God.
I take absolutely no credit. Yeah, well, good. I'm glad. But yes, it's a New York-based story.
It felt like New York.
Yeah. Well,
they did a good job.
The podcast on Spotify is hella fire also.
Oh, I'm going to have to binge that now.
Yeah, that's got 2 seasons actually.
Do you voice it?
I voice it with Bobby Cannavale and Margaret Cho and Richard Kind.
Bobby, that's
and
my guy from Boardwalk Empires. I loved him in that show. I was just
Yeah.
like, and he was in the
David Zayas is in it actually, and
I'm sold. You don't even have to tell me
yeah,
anything
there's a
else.
whole lot of badass moves in that
And
show.
I'm gonna binge it. Listen, guys, I know you're listening to Gracias Come Again, the podcast right now, but I feel like there's still room for you to explore other podcasts, especially if they're led by other Latinos. And it's content that's created for us, and we must consume it in order for it to continue to be created and to continue to exist. Whew, what's the name of the podcast? Full name?
The Horror of Dolores Roach.
Roach. Yeesh.
Dolores Roach.
I feel like I want to revisit everything about this now that I have this.
Well, the element that was missing, like in the TV show, which is like a much more, shall I say, sanitized version of the other one. So the TV show is above ground, and the podcast is literally underground. Like she has to live underground after all the things that she does in, the underground New York system.
Yeah.
But did you know that there's a lot of that during the Depression, there, rich people on Park Avenue and Fifth Avenue built subway systems right under Park and Fifth specifically, so that they would never have to go above ground because, you don't want to do that. Pero los trenes, they were like golden, toilets.
Bellos.
Yeah, there's like marble candelabra, not the candelabra, marble floors and crystal candelabras and pianos, and there was a whole swag down there. I'm sure that something's happened to it by this time.
But just to know that it existed, like you're putting me on.
Yes.
Now, In the Heights. Did you see In the Heights on Broadway?
Yes.
So did I. It was just so spectacular.
Yes.
And when Lin-Manuel Miranda decided to bring this to the big screen, I was like,
Yeah, we were happy.
How did you end up connected with this project?
Kiara Alegría Juris,
Okay.
who wrote the book for In the Heights, and subsequently a lot of shows that I've done, including a musical called Miss You Like Hell, and two plays, one called Daphne's Dive, no relation, and My Broken Language. She wrote a book called My Broken Language. Kiara is a very good friend of mine. So, it wasn't nepotism. Shit, I auditioned. A lot of people wanted to do In the Heights.
The hype behind that movie was insane.
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic really just stabbed it in the heart in a way. But we shot in 2019 before we knew that there was going to be anything parecido a un pandemic. And it was legit one of the best summers of my life. Just making a film with that whole gang was super fabulous.
El Salón con Dasha Polanco.
Ay, sí, mi amor.
I'm like, I feel like I belong there.
Yes, you do. You did. You should have been there.
It just felt so real.
Yeah.
In the musical numbers and just the way everything was put together. It just felt so authentically Latino. I was like, this is really for us.
Yeah. It really was a collaboration that was genuinely for us. And I hope that one day, whatever, it gets sacudido, like somebody pulls it out and just,
bring it back
blows.
again?
Well, in the sense of not necessarily bringing it back, because it's there.
It is.
We can just always take it out and appreciate it without all the qué sé yo qué que había, people didn't want to sit next to each other.
Lo que pasó during the I watched it on a plane, actually.
You were sitting next to people.
I was. Look at that. But I enjoyed it so much. I was just like, it was like the best couple of hours I've spent on a plane ever in life. Because usually I'm like, I hate this, change it. I watch something and then I fall asleep. Like I stood up the whole entire time, like kudos to everyone that worked on that project.
What about that Anthony Ramos?
Oh, he is amazing.
Come on.
Usnavi?
Usnavi and Melissa Barrera and Leslie and Corey Hawkins. Come on.
Listen, they were stellar to say the least.
They were just...
Not because I'm a Latina, not because I love Lin-Manuel Miranda, I love Dasha, not because I love everyone. I feel like this is one of the best movies I've ever watched. And I'm a musical girl, and I've been probably to like 30 Broadway shows, and I watched them all on TV. But this just felt real, authentic, and it connected with me in a way that a lot of things don't.
Honestly, I think that it will stand the test of time.
No, for sure.
And... down the road a piece when we're old and, when we're not even here, it'll still be here. And people be like, wow, that shit was good.
What do you watch that's not related to you? Like, what are your shows?
Oh, my God. You're going to laugh. You're going to think I'm such a geek.
No. I probably watch the same things. No.
I love YouTube.
Really?
Because... I get to curate my stuff, and I'm like I said, I'm writing this other piece, so I get to do these deep dives about certain times of history. So right now, I am
What are you into?
hella into A People's History of the United States, which is a huge book written by Howard Zinn, but there's a YouTube of the book. It's not like the book being written, but it's really much more about Howard Zinn and what would have, a man at that time write a book about, not the usual writers of history, but from the point of view of those who usually are never mentioned, right? The rabbits, as they're called, as opposed to the hunters.
Okay.
And so there's that. And then I watch old black and white, like Alfred Hitchcock shows. I like the minimalness, but they're really corny. I think they just remind me of when I was little in Panama, and there was this background noise. And it's amazing to see just the kind of backward shit we grew up on.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Was Cantinflas a thing in Panama?
Yes, Cantinflas.
My abuelita loved. I'll watch
my
any
God.
Cantinflas movie. If it's playing, I'm watching it because that was her guy.
There's something about watching a black and white Cantinflas that's like a lullaby, right?
I know, right? And he was just so sweet, and it was just so like wholesome, the content.
Did you guys watch La Tremenda Corte?
No.
Oh my God, that was something else.
My grandmother used to love Charles Chaplin too.
Charlie Chaplin was kind of
That was her thing.
genius.
She lived to be 100. You can only imagine. You can only imagine how far back what I used to watch goes. Wow. But she was probably,
Yeah, my aunts, she died at 98, the one I'm thinking of, and it was amazing to hear her talk about the canal and her father building the Panama Canal.
El Canal de Panama.
Sí.
That's been such a what do we do? Are we here? Is it America? Is it Panama? It's just like,
Oh
I
my
feel like right now we're in the middle of something, or am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong at all. Por mi punto de vista,
Háblame.
we've always been in something.
Mm-hmm.
We just haven't
Siempre,
been
right?
so aware. And, things are as they are right now, that like there's just a big, it's not a spotlight, it's like a Klieg light. It's those movie lights.
The
that's
big
on.
round, the ones from back in the
big,
days.
Like, movie lights, like the ones that like look at airplanes and stuff. And we have devices in our hands constantly giving us information that we never ever had before.
No, before you would read about El Canal de Panama in a book.
Yeah, there's like the Encyclopedia Britannica, that joke. I mean, it's not a joke. Or you'd have to go out of your way to find out information which was very biased and very limited, unless you wanted to go to some Library of Congress and stuff. My mother used to be very honest and proud, but sometimes people would say, "Where are you from?" And she wouldn't say Panama.
¿Qué decía?
Colombia o a veces Cuba. Qué vergüenza, porque nadie le respetaba a los panameños, que ellos creían que todos nosotros teníamos malaria y éramos descalzos y vivíamos en la jungla.
Oh my God.
And I was like heartbroken, like, well, it was also the canal building narrative.
The mentality. And
like, I don't want to go build a canal. So, like, you know, all of us people from Jamaica and Barbados and the West Indies and China and Italy, I mean, other places too came to build the canal, pero ahí también estuvo mi abuelo.
Sí.
And there was the myth of the silver people of Panama. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
So the silver people of Panama were the black people of Panama that came to build the canal, that were in the silver pavilions of town as opposed to the gold pavilions. And then my aunt told me that my grandfather died from lead poisoning from painting the canal, and that because he was fair-skinned, they put him in the gold pavilion. And I was like, yeah, well, that's where he belonged. But then his wife, who was dark-skinned, my grandmother, very melanated, would come to visit him as his maid so that he would keep his space. But his oldest son, was black, dark-skinned, could not visit him. And then when they discovered that it was his son, he went to the silver pavilion. Y ahí enseguidita se murió. Because in silver pavilions, they just didn't want to pay you your pension. So people didn't want to go to the silver pavilion in Gorgas Hospital in the Canal Zone because they would die enseguidita. I say all that to say we don't know what our ancestors did. I know that if my ancestors built major shit, I know everybody in this room's ancestors built major shit. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about color, but it is about class.
Well, classism, yeah.
Yeah, but like we built it. I needed to say that because it makes me really proud, and I think that as a proud woman, she couldn't own that.
And that sucks. It's like, yo, I'm proud. Yo soy orgullosa de ser de Panamá, pero all these misconceptions that you guys have, and all, you know, these labels that you have, you're not allowing me to be proud of who I am, the way I want to be.
Yeah, but that's not new,
That
right?
would kill me. No, 100% it's not.
Yeah, it's not new.
We're both
that actually adds to a bigger question that we're not just, you know, like... You know, there's all these questions in my business about representation, and you can't really play this role because you're not really this thing, you know. And then we discover that, well, you're not that thing either. You're an actor. I mean, like, you know, guess what? We're supposed to act and pretend that we're things that we aren't. But when you look at what we are actually made of, it's like so many things. We are so not one thing that to be what we are, there's like Scottish. Anyway.
That brings me, you know, I can tell you this. Like, I was always like, I'm Dominican till I did my 23andMe. And then I was
Scottish too?
I was Portuguese and Nigerian.
Yes.
I'm like, 1% Dominican. I'm like, what is this? So, you know, it kind of like correlates directly with what you're saying. It's like, we're not just one thing. And you're talking about roles, like playing roles that if you're not that role, you shouldn't play it.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Right. It was like, oh, well, you know, you're not really Mexican. And I'm like, pero yo soy actriz. And then I see my 23andMe and it's like, the fuck I'm not.
What?
I'm like, wow, I'm Mexican. It's almost like.
Listen, si me ponen actor de cubana, let's do it.
Yes,
Puertorriqueña, dominicana, lo que sea.
Cuban.
Listen, nosotros somos, for me, Latinos, we're all one. And, you know, like with Puerto Rican and Dominicans, it was always like, oh, Puerto Ricans don't like Dominicans, Dominicans don't like Puerto Rican. Guess what? I married a Puerto Rican and he loves a Dominican and I love a Puerto Rican. So it's kind of like, it's not a thing as far as like all of our Spanish speaking countries. And I see a lot of actors, flip flop, and I'm like, you're Puerto Rican, but you're in every Mexican. You're like, what is going on here?
I'm trying to make some money. That's what it is. But yeah. I think that I heard about that. I mean, we all want to keep our proud identity, but if you put us all in a building, like, por ejemplo, again, like old school Panama, the deep dives about turn of the century, I'm obsessed. There were two houses, the Casa Muller and Casa Canavaggio, for example. There were many others, but where like all the blacks from all the islands, like Guyana, Trinidad, Tobago, Barbados, Jamaica, and we wanted to keep our identities. But in order to have a community, we had to work together,
La unión hace la fuerza.
Sí. Eso es lo máximo, pues.
No, it really is. Now, I want to talk about All's Well in New York.
Yes.
I loved that project. Now, was that shot in New York? Because
yes.
if you tell me if it wasn't, I'm going to be like,
No.
What
you can tell. Can't you tell? New York is a character in that piece.
And, I love the story. And I loved how it was a story of sisters. And even though you were a sister-in-law, you still came through as like a sister. Mm-hmm. And, everything about this project, if you're listening to the episode right now, All Is Well in New York, I watched it on Amazon Prime, and I loved it. It was just like the cast was amazing, and your character. It was hard watching.
Yeah.
The way, your daughter treated you. I'm like, are kids really like this? Are they?
Do you have kids?
No.
Yeah. Well, I have a son. I think it's completely different when you have a son
versus the daughter.
Yeah, probably. I know that I couldn't have been easy. As challenging as it is with my son. It's like he's un amor. He's a piece of.
He's nothing like Connie.
He's not Connie. Oh my God.
When Connie was going in on you, I was like, si esta mujer no le da una galleta.
I know, right?
It was right on cue. I was like,
yeah,
there you go.
Right on time, right?
No.
I love working with that crew. I mean, that's the lab right there.
I could tell. I was like, there it is.
That's the labyrinth. And so we are family, I mean, we don't see each other for years. And then, you just get right back into it. Like, so that's a beautiful thing.
Who put this project together?
Elizabeth and Ben Snyder. I think Elizabeth had worked with Ben Snyder, the director, and co-writer with Elizabeth Rodriguez. Vamos
a hablar español.
Vamos a hablar. Elizabeth Rodriguez. And Ben Snyder approached me, asking me if I wanted to collaborate on this project where we got to build the story together based on experiences we'd had that...
You came in early.
That were also adjacent, right? But things that we knew, and then just sort of giving them shape and recontextualizing them. For example, like, for me, just like, the boyfriend getting his puffy, slashed, just stuff like that that's like very New York in the 90s, right?
I was dying laughing. I was like, she said that shit is ugly anyway. He said nah.
Yeah.
He said nah, that's nice.
Yeah, and just certain conversations that are, about nothing but so sort of poignant, they hit different.
It definitely hit.
So my character Serene had an issue with her voice.
I was gonna ask you that. I'm like, what happened to Serene? Like, why? I said, is she acting like she doesn't want to speak up? I couldn't really grasp like what happened to your character's voice. It was just went away.
Yeah, it was. Some never go away. But some are triggered by trauma. And when I heard that. In the film, when I hear bad news, when shit gets really raw, I start losing my voice.
I was wondering. I'm like, but nothing happened. I'm like, all of a sudden, Serene talks low.
What happened was I got the news of my ex-husband being in the hospital. And that's when
that triggered it?
That's what triggers
Got
it.
it. So this condition can be, that can be triggered by trauma?
It can be, yeah.
Wow, never even heard of this.
There are also many other things that might trigger it, and there's neurological and not neurological. But there was something that was fascinating about how she spoke and tried to get her words out, and she had to be very careful about it. So I think Ben Snyder thought that was interesting. But then it kind of called too much attention to itself, so we brought it down. We modified it.
You scaled it.
Yeah.
Attention now. Desmond's storyline. We don't have to get into it, but for me, it hit close to home.
Yeah.
It was just like, how, drugs, alcohol, how you can just, kind of like ostracize yourself from happiness, family, and, just kind of like close yourself off and end up, wasting your life in a way.
Yeah. The way this film was received, I don't pay attention to reviews because
as you should.
It doesn't. No, but in a way, it can.
It takes away, right?
I really deplore expecting someone like making you feel like. Although I know that that's what we do. I don't want to manipulate your feelings so much. It's like you feel what you feel, right?
Yeah, no.
People thought the film was dark or like the shadow side. Like we're always flawed characters when we're real characters, and it's like
it was very real.
¿Qué aburrimiento? Like if we're not flawed, I'm not interested in an unflawed.
And we're not interesting if we're not flawed.
Who's not flawed?
Someone making believe they're not flawed.
Yeah, that's a flaw. Right?
Now, and all as I wanted it to be a series. Like I felt like I wanted more. Even when when the movie ended with you guys just at a table eating, I'm like,
right.
I was like, that's it. I said, I want more. And I feel like these types of projects where I feel so identified and it feels so relatable, I want more.
Yeah.
Because that's the same thing that happened to me, with Dolores Roach. I was just like, I want more of this. And I kept Googling, is it coming back? Is there another season? It's like, keep doing what you're doing, man, because we need this, and it's the reason why I do this podcast, because voices like yours need to be heard and stories like yours need to be told, because you've been representing us since 93?
Something like that. Yeah, like 90.
90.
Yeah, Pajama Party's 1990.
Listen, you put in that work, and your body of work is something that's I was looking at her as this woman done worked her ass off. I said, does she not take a break?
No. I take breaks. I'm not really trying to prove anything, so I don't mind calling myself an artist. I think I still have shit to say.
100%.
I think that there's so many ways to communicate and tell stories that we can relate to for us and by us that aren't shaming. That, and it's not like dark and it's not like sad, but it's real.
And that project was very real, and to me it wasn't dark in any way. It was like my family.
Yeah,
it was
hella sad.
It was sad, but I feel like I've been through so much that it was just like, okay,
yeah, I
know people who went through this, so I know moms who went through this. But what are you working on currently? Because I was like 2024 like, what are you working on right now? Like, what is your main priority?
Making sure my knee and my body is completely on point for Shakespeare in the Park at the Delacorte this summer. We're doing 12th Night. with Lupita Nyong'o and her brother Junior and Sandra
Lupita.
Oh and Peter Dinklage and Jesse Tyler Ferguson and Bill Camp and a whole posse
I
of
saw the
tasty
lineup. I was on the
treats.
website. I was like, this is gonna be amazing.
Yes, Sahim Ali is directing, and it's going to be the opening up of the new refurbished Delacorte Theater, so it's going to be on and popping.
Listen, we outside this summer.
Yes, yes.
Nah, man, this conversation, I wanted to have it. I've been seeing you for years. I admire you, and I admire, just the freedom that you have when you're acting. It just feels real. It just doesn't feel like acting. It just feels like you're just doing what you want to do.
That's what people tell me. It's like, is that? Gee, I wanna look like I don't want to look like I'm acting, but yeah, they're like, you look like you're not doing anything.
Which means you're an amazing, amazing actor, because it just comes off so real, man. I want to thank you, for pulling up today, taking this time and allowing me to be, in your space and getting to know you.
You're fantastic.
And, just letting
And
me...
you're my hero. I mean, for real, honey. Come on.
Listen, Latinas, we might get knocked down, but we're not going to stay on the ground. We're going to get back up. We're going to fight. Y venimos con más fuerza.
Sí.
Más bonita.
Para que lo sepan.
Ya lo sabe. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Daphne Rubin-Vega. Quería dar como 20 diferentes nombres, but thank you so much for sitting down with me today. I appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing. Que ahora es que falta.
Gracias, amor. Bendiciones.
Gracias. Come again.
I will.